President Trump has announced that he is likely going to strike Iran's Pickaxe Mountain. Now, you might be wondering why. What does that have to do with anything? I mean, aren't we bombing the hell out of Iran to begin with? Well, this whole incident, this whole situation, and Trump's decision to potentially strike Pickaxe Mountain started with the Israelis leaking intelligence to the Wall Street Journal. And I don't trust Israeli intelligence. I believe that they fabricate things in order to drag the United States into wars, much like they did with Iraq. They claimed that there were weapons of mass destruction. There were no such weapons, and we got sucked into a war that was devastating for our soldiers, for our economy, and for our standing in the international community. But here's what we learned from Israeli intel. Israeli intel said to show Iran has moved thousands of centrifuges to Natanz's Pickaxe Mountain. Iranians estimated to have transported the enrichment devices in months of activity at underground nuclear site. Unclear where the centrifuges came from, probably because they don't exist. Trump has threatened to bomb the site. Now, last week on Hugh Hewitt's show, Trump said in response to this Israeli intel, which was leaked to the Wall Street Journal, that maybe this isn't really true. Maybe this isn't confirmed. Let's put that graphic up real quick. There we go. Pickaxe is a possible target for a nice big fat shot right near the front door. We see no activity there. They're not doing well with their nuclear situation. We'll probably give Pickaxe a shot relatively soon. Like, okay, keep the graphic up. I want you guys to read that for yourselves. Read it slowly. Okay, we see no activity there. They're not doing well with their nuclear situation. So naturally, the next line should be, we're not gonna strike it because we are low on missiles. And it makes no sense to strike anything until we have confirmation that the strike would actually accomplish something, right? So then Trump was asked about Pickaxe Mountain again. And here's what he just recently said.
Do you believe that Iran has moved nuclear centrifuges into Pickaxe Mountain? And when you say we're not done yet, what is left to finish?
Well, I think that they may have. We don't have it on record. All we do is read the fake news. We see through the news is so wrong so many times. So, maybe this one they have right, but it's okay. It doesn't mean anything unless they have the material. You're talking about the centrifuges. Yeah, it doesn't mean anything unless they have the material. They don't have. We follow the material. That's where the action is, and we'll be hitting that area probably pretty soon. And there's not a thing they can do about it.
Okay, I mean, does he sound like an intelligent person? We don't know. There's probably nothing going on. They probably have the intelligence wrong, but we're gonna strike them soon. Nothing Iran can do about it, Okay. So let's talk about what would be accomplished by striking Pickaxe Mountain based on unconfirmed Israeli intelligence, which everyone should take with a grain of salt. Well, interestingly enough, there was a statement from Mario Nawfal, of all people. Now, he spends his entire day talking to all sorts of experts on questions of foreign policy. And apparently one of his guests said something really fascinating about whether even a bunker buster bomb could cause some damage to centrifuges that are buried under Pickaxe Mountain. Let's take a look at what he had to say. This is video 5.
So one of my guests did mention to me that, Mario, even a tactical nuke cannot destroy Pickaxe Mountain. I'm like, there's no way. Let me check that. It's actually true. It is so freaking deep that a tactical nuke, now I don't know if there's different degrees of how powerful a nuke is, maybe multiple nukes, I'm not an expert, but I researched if a tactical nuke could destroy the facilities, it could cause damage in different ways depending how it's built, but it won't destroy it. And that's a tactical nuke, putting aside bunker busters, which have no chance of destroying it. So the only way if you want to destroy it or get whatever's in there is through a raid, through having boots on the ground.
Through having boots on the ground, which is what, of course, Israel's pushing for. But what I also thought was really fascinating is what Joe Kent had to say, what his fear is in regard to this whole narrative that's being built about Pickaxe Mountain in Iran. And it has to do with nukes. Let's take a look at what he had to say.
The Israelis leak to the Wall Street Journal that Pickaxe Mountain is where all the highly enriched uranium is being stored, implying that they got the highly enriched uranium out of the 3 sites that we bombed, and now it's all at Pickaxe Mountain. So they leaked that at the same time. I get nervous with that. And then what we talked about last time I was on your show last week, when you had Netanyahu winking and nodding about, oh yeah, I went and I visited the textile facility in Dimona, basically saying that, like, yeah, we still have this nuclear capability. It's the first time he's brought it up in quite some time. And like we talked about last time I was on the show, the more you play out the military scenarios, if you have to have a military solution and your goal is like the Israelis, and that is to have the regime completely crumble. And we want, basically, the president's even saying, he wants he wants Iran basically to give us everything that we want. They're not going to do that. And so I think what they've done with this messaging coming out of the cabinet meeting and saying, like, we don't want to be part of the American campaign, I believe that they've kind of given us plausible deniability. That way, if they were to go and they were to use a nuclear weapon, potentially on Pickaxe Mountain or somewhere else, they've made a public statement that we can point back to. We can be like, hey, we didn't know the Israelis were going to do that. That wasn't us, that was the Israelis. That's my big concern.
We are fighting a war against Iran under the false claim that they are a threat to our national security because they are attempting to build nuclear weapons that they actually were not attempting to build. Yet, Israel has a clandestine nuclear program for nuclear weapons, not for energy, for nuclear weapons, not for civilian use, not for hospital use, for nuclear weapons. Multiple public figures and politicians in Israel have threatened to use their clandestine nukes against, in some cases, the United States, as was the case with Jonathan Pollard. He admitted as much. And sometimes by Netanyahu when he references it in regard to the war against Iran. The threat to world peace has been Israel. The threat when it comes to nuclear war is Israel. Yet we got dragged into a war on behalf of Israel because Israel is very afraid of Iran's non-existent nuclear weapons. That's where we're at, folks. That's where we're at. It's just so pathetic.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.